I'm Tim Johnson. I'm an officer in the Las Vegas chapter. I'm one of the original founding members of the Las Vegas chapter. We started that in 2015. Car clubs have always been part of my life in some form or fashion. One of the big issues I've had with car clubs in the past is you get into too much politics, and politics can quickly ruin a car club. And it gets hard to get along with everybody when you keep nitpicking every little tiny thing. Or in the past, a lot of car clubs have had issues with outside influence. For me, a true car club focuses on the cars, driving the cars, enjoying the cars, and being around the people in that same car genre of sorts. And for us with the Cadillacs, it all culminates around 1976 and older Cadillacs. Everything from there is all creating friendships and bonds with the people that enjoy the same cars. A family type environment is not always achieved, but that's what you always want. It hasn't always been Cadillacs for me. When I started off, I started in the mini truck world. It was mini trucks and airbags and crazy paint jobs, and that grew over time. I guess my taste changed over time as I went on as well, and I got into full-size trucks. Then I got into full-size cars, and then with a couple unfortunate circumstances with my last big body car, I remember saying, all I want now is just an old Cadillac. And that's how it worked out. There's actually a cool story on how that all came about too. So I remember I had wrecked my wagon. It was a Caprice wagon. And at the time we were just dating. We're married now. We've been married 10 years now. And at the time she said, hey, you know, I had a little bit of money set aside. You know, I wanted to just give to you to do whatever with. And she said, what do you want? And I said, I want an old Cadillac. And she said, all right, go find one. And we searched around all over the Las Vegas Valley until I found a 68 Coupe de Ville. And I test drove it a couple times. We got a couple fond memories out of that. But I remember her saying, if that's what you want, then go get it. And then that car turned into a 7-year project, and I was able to proudly display it at SEMA in 2012 before the car was wrecked. There was what it was, I was in the solar industry, and solar went belly up in Nevada, and I was without work. I was working in and out of different hot rod shops, just trying to make the bills pay. And I finally got an interview with the state of Nevada, and I took the car down to my interview because that was all I had that day. I refused to get rid of it. I pulled out onto Sunset Road, and at a stoplight got rear-ended by a semi-truck. And yeah, I was injured. My back was a little bit tweaked. It wasn't too bad. Honestly, the size of the car is what saved me. And then from there, it was just kind of writing on the wall. I fought with insurance companies and lawyers and the whole nine. And I ended up salvaging as much as I could from the car. In the 5 years pre-pandemic, I think my fondest memory of our chapter is when we hosted our first All Chapters BBQ. We were able to do a driving cruise. We had people host us. It was awesome. I can't remember the number of cars. I want to say it's close to 50 Cadillacs rolling through town. We had people running traffic blocks. We got to visit Welder Up, Counts Customs, Ed Shalakian with his entire Cadillac collection. It was super neat to have all those people. And we even got to go on the Speed Vegas racetrack exclusively. With 2020, the start of 2020, with everything that happened and the full shutdowns, at first we thought it was actually pretty neat. You know, we had the whole strip to ourselves. There was no traffic. I mean, literally the whole world stopped. And it was kind of neat for a little while until the restrictions started in and we couldn't have gatherings. We couldn't do groups. There was people that believed one thing, people that believed another. And going through all of that was an extraordinary challenge all in itself, just trying to get everybody to stay communicating somehow. We did various different things. We did apps, and we did Facebook groups, and we did group texting, anything we could do to try to keep everybody going. Through that entire process, we had people get sick. We had some people got very sick. Thankfully, we didn't lose anybody in our chapter from it, but it was, for a time there, it got very difficult. And now that it's kind of passed and things are opening back up, we have definitely I don't want to say a disconnect, but that's kind of what it feels like, where everybody's kind of off doing their own thing, and it's really hard to kind of get everybody back into the same room together. And it's just not as easy as it used to be. And between financial troubles and COVID and people's belief systems, it's been very hard to get everybody back on that one page again, even going into 2021 coming up, or 2021 now, with restrictions lifting and everybody going back to work. So it's been a challenge. It hasn't been a bad thing. Some people have gotten closer and other people have grown further apart. And we just need to try to find that cohesion again. I don't think we can't get anybody back. Yeah, it's getting everybody to respond. That's been the biggest thing, is communication. We're having a hard time getting everybody to communicate together and get onto one page, and everybody seems to have their own agendas. And that's just part of what happened with the pandemic. It just kind of spread everybody out. 2019, we were starting to get on that straight and narrow. Everybody was working good together. We were doing a lot of things as a group. Sure, we had 16, 17 guys at the time, and you'd only get, 8 or 9 cars out at a time, but that was still a huge showing. And we quarter-mile long in Cadillacs. It's awesome. But now we're just working hard to try to get everybody back in together and just trying to get on the upswing of things again. So yeah, there is. There's a small group of guys that started out as 3 of us, that we were just texting with ideas, and then, hey, I know a guy who's even better at that idea, and then he got added in. Hey, I know a guy who's got that idea under control, and he bring that in, and it turned into this group, and we dub it the Wheelhouse. And it's kind of a group of misfits. It's made up of committee members and chapter heads from various areas, and even a member who's not a chapter head, who just, they have a like-minded idea on how to problem solve, how to walk through things, and how to help monitor things as we go. One guy is super experienced on writing legal documents, and he's reviewing the bylaws and how we can not tighten things up, but make them more clear. We have another guy who's helping oversee the international stuff, and our new chapter liaison's on board with this, and he's kind of, as we're helping new chapters go forward. And it's an easier communication base for us, where the committee is usually designated for hard set decision making. This group is idea based, where, and I don't want to say it's necessarily a committee within a committee. We don't hold any authority. We're just helping to create that communication base, especially with the new chapters, to kind of help them understand how to walk through things. And it all started off that way. It all started off with a group of guys that was just trying to help new chapters fit into the mix better. So they didn't feel like they were left hanging so much. The Wheelhouse is absolutely important at this point. I think as far as helping guide new chapters in and helping to identify things as we go without making any hard set decisions. They just help keep that ball rolling. Say a new chapter has an issue with, hey, we don't know where to go for this. How can we do this? Well, we have a new chapter liaison, and that's part of what he does, but he can't grab every phone line. So this whole group just kind of rolls in together and just helps pick up those little pieces as we go along, and tries to help bring everybody into the same room together so everybody knows where they belong. I started it. So it started off with me and Wes texting back and forth, and I was approached by Jason out of Denver saying, hey, there's a couple wishy-washy things with the bylaws. Who wrote them? I admittedly said I revised them, and these were what were voted on. And he said, well, there's some gray areas, and I don't think some of these gray areas can lead for some ugliness. So he wanted to help kind of tighten that up. And when it came into the new chapter stuff, hey, with new chapters, it says X, Y, Z in the bylaws. Hey, let's bring Eric in. Eric can help out with this. And one thing led to another, and then it turned into, we had an international question. Well, hey, let's get a hold of Ryan up in Canada. Let's bring him into this. And then we're talking about media and social media and all that stuff. Well, we have a website guy who he's desperately trying to get our website going, and it just seems to be hitting roadblock after roadblock. So we need to talk to him. So, hey, Colin, come on in, dude. We need to have a talk with you about this. And next thing you know, it turns into this group that we talk almost daily about, hey, so we have, we have this new chapter and they're running into this issue. Who can help them order shirts, or who can help get them the logos they need, and those type of things. And so we just kind of help with that. To clarify with the wheelhouse, as far as like how that goes with committee, the wheelhouse has absolutely no authority on anything. The wheelhouse just helps keep the ball rolling. If things need to go to committee, they go to committee. But if we can filter it or dissolve it before it has to go to committee on everything, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be dictators. We don't want to be rulers. That's not how this is supposed to work. The committee is there to help make the hard decisions when it comes down to it. A lot of decisions aren't that hard. A lot of decisions just need some common sense and a little bit of thought. So when it comes down to some of this stuff, that's all we do. We just make those decisions. We just kind of, again, don't make any authority decisions on anything. All we're just trying to do is just kind of help keep that ball rolling on a more individual, more personal basis. The committee itself usually has really hard decisions to make, and those decisions are ones that a lot of guys don't want to have on their shoulders. I mean, you in a lot of cases it doesn't happen bad, but in some cases you're the bad guy. So when it came to committee years ago, Wes he saw something in me that, and I've always enjoyed the leadership part of things. And he really pushed for me to get nominated and get elected into committee. And that was a club-wide election. All the chapter heads had to cast their vote. And I'm so grateful that I was actually able to be on the committee. Here I am, relatively new into the club, only a few years in. And next thing I know, I'm sitting next to one of the founders on this group of 5 guys, this committee that kind of helps oversee how the whole club works. I never saw that coming ever. I figured I would be a helper and a leader in my own chapter. I never saw myself elevating to that point. And I say it like that because it's not just a little car club. It's not just, oh, hey, we have, a few chapters and we just need somebody to help oversee them all. No, we're 37 chapters big with more waiting in the wings. We're waiting on their turn to earn that crown. So as committee came along, and me and Wes formed a very good friendship there. And Wes had always just he looked at me as somebody he could bounce common sense ideas off of. So committee was always committee. Committee was always there to make the decisions, and I was part of that. What started everything is with the wheelhouse is how me and Wes we started talking about things. He was burned out, but I was anxious. I was ambitious. I had that fire in me that he had at one time. And it just seemed like it was constant work for him. And it's just like anything. Your favorite hobby will always be your hobby until it becomes work. I've tried to do body shop and paint work on my own, and I've tried doing photography on my own. And both those things I've let go because they became work. And now they're my passions and my hobbies again. And so now I understand where Wes was at with, every 15 years of just constant barrage of, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Hey, is this shirt okay? Is this shirt not okay? And conflicting, personalities and conflicting chapter ideas. So it became work for him, and I understand that. But I was fired up. I had ambition. I had ideas. So me and Wes started talking just one-on-one. And then one idea led into another idea, and now I see this whole new life in Wes that I didn't see before.
So would you say that you gave him you kind of refreshed his outlook on being in the club? And
I don't want to necessarily take credit for it, but yeah, absolutely. Me and Wes think a lot alike. Wes has been the founder. He's always been known as one of the founders. There was 4 founders. Wes is by far the most active of the 4. So Wes has always been a point guy. No matter through committee, no matter through chapter heads, no matter what, every person in this club at some point or another has looked to Wes for direction because he was there when it all started. And Corey's right there with him. And I've seen Corey burned out. And both of these guys have been there from the beginning. They're constantly working, trying to keep everything going. It does get tiring. I've even found myself burning out, and I'm 6 years in. I can't imagine 15, 16 years. We do this because we're stupid. We're glutton for punishment. I don't know. I don't know exactly why we do this, because we put so much stress on ourselves. And Wes knows just as much as any of the guys in my chapter that not only do I take the full responsibility of my chapter, even though I'm supposed to share that responsibility, I take the full responsibility of the club because I'm part of the committee. And that's where Wheelhouse was born, outside of that committee, to be these guys with common sense ideas to help look at things through a different lens. And as a photographer, sometimes just changing your lens changes the entire perspective of the photo. So I understand that. And so when I get buried or burned and I don't know how to necessarily approach a situation, if it doesn't need committee attention, the Wheelhouse takes it. And the Wheelhouse could be like, hey, well, look, maybe if we just, suggest that they go about it this way. And we've been able to resolve a number of issues through the Wheelhouse before they ever needed committee attention, which is fantastic. That's the whole idea of it. And it was an idea that was born out of not an idea. It was never supposed to happen. Let's not say necessarily necessity. I don't think the Wheelhouse was born out of necessity. It was born out of passion. 100% out of passion. These guys are guys that really have a lot of love for the club. They wear this logo as a badge of honor. I mean, I wear a logo every day. I wear a hard hat at work. There's a sticker on my hard hat, That's just, some of us just live and breathe this. And maybe that's, I don't want to say immature, because when you think about it as a car club being, you're 40 years old and you're in a car club. It's not about that. It's about the bonds you create. These are your friends. These are people you're supposed to be friends with. But like any family, you're going to have struggles. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have falling outs. Some of this stuff comes all the way back, but sometimes it gets ugly before it gets there. The structure was set into place because we needed to have at least a set of rails to ride on. And that was it. And if you don't want to be on these rails, then maybe the rails need to go the other way, or maybe you need to find a different set of rails to be on. But we don't want anybody to feel pushed out by any means. We want to have that cohesion. But when you have a blend of, you have hardcore lowrider guys that, when you talk to any lowrider club, their club is family, period. There is no breaking away from that. And we have chapters that operate that way. We have chapters that operate like a bunch of mini truckers. I'm an ex-mini trucker. You have what you want as a structure, and it never works out the way you want it to work out. So you end up just kind of winging it all the time. For the future of our chapter in Las Vegas, I'd like to see bigger numbers. We, like any other chapter, we have our ups and downs, but I was reminded by a member just recently about how many good things we had. 2020 wasn't all doom and gloom. There was some really good stuff there. We started doing cruises. There was a general consensus through the chapter that we want to drive. So good weather times, we started making drives. We'd make the drive out to the Pioneer Saloon. We'd make the drive out to Hoover Dam. We were doing things in the cars and truly enjoying the cars. And I'm reminded of those things that's what we like to do. And car shows, sure, they're fun. Meetings, we get together and, we end up talking and hanging out, and that's a good time. But we really find the happiness behind the wheel of the car. And I think that's where we're going to head a little bit more as far as events, is driving events. We don't have to go far, but we just want to get out and drive. We want to enjoy the cars. And I think we're going to create an entire new group of people that's going to come in and want to be a part of that. Right. We found ways to adapt around that. That was the whole point. But I think 2020 had both negative and positive effects. I think negative effects is that because we've always run our chapter very relaxed. Hey man, everybody's got a life. Can't make it, you can't make it. You know, the only thing we require is that, you know, you participate every year with our chapter's annual dues, and, you know, from there, like, just let us know what's going on. Well, I think that communication fell a little bit, but we started adapting around that to create, again, the driving events, things where we were getting outside, things that were permissible by, you know, by the governor or the state or however it was. It was a mixed bag of stuff because, you know, when COVID started in March, nobody really knew what was going on. We had guys that would never show up to anything at all, like, period. They're I mean, and not to point fingers at anybody by any means. We had guys running around with masks in their own cars by themselves, and and to everybody, you know, they were only working with the information they were provided. As time went on, I remember that me and my whole family got COVID. And I remember first thing I did was let all the guys know, hey, just want to let you guys know I got COVID. We're going to work through it. You know, we ended up actually coming out fine with it. It took a while to get over some of the symptoms. My wife had some nasty symptoms, but overall we came out healthy and better. We've had other members catch COVID along the way. We've had some that have never caught it. I guess it just, until this thing is completely under control, it's going to be a mixed bag. And not just within our chapter, it's going to be every chapter's dealing with this. You know, with the Prospect chapter right now, with their leader in the hospital, like, and it's bad. So, and here we are over a year and a half into it. I don't think it necessarily affected us as a club as much as it did on our individual persons. You know, one of my friend's nephews was killed there. It's sad.
And then, of course, for reference, we're talking about, I'm just kind of saying this so I could write
the Route 91, the Route 91 shooting. Yes, it was bad. And it was the day afterwards, October 2nd of that, when that happened. I was scheduled for back surgery, and my surgeon was panicking because he was being called all over the place. So I wasn't even sure if my surgery was going to happen that day. Honestly, to be perfectly honest, no. At that, man, I don't even want to say at that time, because it wasn't even at that time. It was just things. We've always been just trying focused to take care of each other. And I think that's what the focus is here, is like, yeah, it didn't have a direct result to anybody of us. Like, we didn't know anybody. It didn't hurt any of us directly. It sucked. Did we fly the Vegas Strong banners on all of our you know, social media? Absolutely. But there wasn't really a whole lot of community outreach stuff, so we really didn't do a whole lot. I know that there was a lot more on the law enforcement side, but all in all, I think the main focus was we just take care of our own. And I know that Vegas is considered our own. And I think as we grow, our community involvement gets better. The Injured Police Officers car show, we love to go to that. We love to go to Trunk or Treat, which benefits you know, children in the city. We do things like that, but we have never spearheaded one of our own yet. Yeah, well, there was some cruises that were happening, especially with COVID. They were doing a lot more cruises on the Strip. So we were trying to be, you know, we try to be involved in things. We have a group of guys that's very busy, and we do account for that. We can't ask people to just, hey, in 2 weeks we're shooting a documentary, show up. You know, so it's.
You actually had a little bit more time than that. You know. No, I get it.
But
like,
yeah, it's difficult, and you know, what I do see a lot of our guys doing is that if something comes up, that they'll go on their own. Sean, one of our chapter heads, he's at everything. I mean, that guy lives and breathes Cadillac. So he's always at something, and he's at a lot of benefit stuff, and he's starting to create a group of guys that starts to follow him along, which is great, because that takes a little bit of that planning and that scale off of me, because he's kind of starting to create that movement, which I'm all for, and I support him 110%. He'll text me, hey, I'm going to this XYZ show. You want to go? I'll be like, hey, man, I can't go, but I will advertise all day long with you.